Hi, this is Dan Sullivan. I'd like to welcome you to the Multiplier Mindset Podcast. The biggest obstacle to growth for entrepreneurs who really have a lot of talent, they have a lot of opportunity, but they somehow never really put it all together. There's a phrase for that. They never quite get their act together. It has to do with certain kinds of thoughts that they have in their mind. I'll put a name to these thoughts. I call them myths. So there's kind of like a mythology about what it takes to be a really successful entrepreneur. The biggest myth is that in addition to being a leader, you also have to be a great manager. And what I've realized is that for an entrepreneurial company to be really successful, it has to have great leadership and it also has to have really great management. But it doesn't have to have one person doing both of those things. As a matter of fact, some of the most successful companies I've seen is where one person is extraordinarily good at leadership, and then they have other people who are in their team with them who are very, very great at management. And I'm just going to explain the difference between leadership and management. And in order to do that, I'm actually going to start with management. That management and great managers, they're very, very good at maximizing the value of what's already been created. They maximize the value of what already exists. So it's literally about the past, but mostly about the present. It's what are we doing right now? And in business terms, we're really talking about cash flow. We're really talking about guaranteeing that we're getting in the maximum amount of cash flow from what we've already created and what already exists, what already works. So I'd like to just establish that as what management is, that it's about the present, it's about what already exists. Leadership is, what is it in the future that's going to be bigger and better than what already exists? So the whole role of leaders, the whole responsibility of leaders is to always be creating a future in terms of the company's progress, its revenues, its profits, its reputation in the marketplace, its dominance of certain markets, because there's no point in being in a market if you're not dominating it in some unique way. That's the job of the leader, to look out what doesn't exist and then to create the conditions in which everything that exists already can jump to the next level in every area of performance in the company. These are very, very different. Now, I have seen people who are both good at the first one and also good at the second one. They're good managers, but they're also great leaders. But my feeling is that in order to really grow a company, the leadership role can always find good managers, but a company that's dominated by managers can very seldom find a good leader, because they don't really want to look too much further than what's already existing. So that's the biggest difference that I would say. It's a big myth. I've coached more than 6,000 entrepreneurs over the last 40 years, and I would say that 95% of the really successful ones were where the dominant skill of the lead entrepreneur is that they were great leaders. Only rarely have I seen a situation where the dominant skill was that they were a great manager. As I said, some of them are both, but if I was growing a company and I was starting something new and I wanted a company to grow, I would go after the leadership role first, because it's much easier to find great managers to work for a great leader than it is for find leaders who will work for an existing group of managers. So what's really interesting about this is that the business schools, for the most part, the very established business schools which belong to universities, very prestigious around the world, for the most part they're not producing leaders, they're actually producing managers. And these are individuals, when they graduate from business schools, will go into management roles in the university. And frequently, the greatest companies in our world are created by people who never went to business school. As a matter of fact, some of them really, in many ways, didn't have very much college. But what they had was a passion for creating something new in the world. They developed immense amount of skill about how you take something that's just an idea to start with and then pull together all the capabilities and resources of other people, including great managers, in order to actually build an entirely new kind of enterprise in the world. The marvelous thing, I think, about living in the 21st century right now is that I think that there's far, far more situations and opportunities for people who are great at leadership than there were when I first started in business in the 1970s. I just think that there's a lot more flexibility, there's a lot more room, there's a lot more unpredictability of creating new things which are unpredictable in the marketplace, which catch everybody by surprise, which disrupt things, and really make that enterprise work. And so I think it's a time in history where the opportunities for business leadership is at its all-time greatest, and I think that that situation, the premium on leadership, I think the value of that is going to continually multiply in the years ahead. So if you have a thought in your mind, you're already a really good leader. You have to develop your management skills. My advice would be to save your time, save the effort, don't try to do that, but be even better at being a leader and then attract to you really great managers, because a lot of people would love to manage what already exists for people who are constantly able to create entirely new future that's bigger and better, because it guarantees them a lifetime of managing at a higher and higher level. Just remember, the priority here is that leadership creates the possibility for there to be good managers.